Hello, welcome to this video where I'm going to be giving a beginner's intro to working with and caring for your tarot deck. I made a cool, quick little graphic as well, which I will share with just some quick tips of things that I'm going to go over more in-depthly in the video here. So if you're brand new to tarot, welcome. For beginners, I love to kind of break the stereo type of tarot being future predictions and being like something you go to for specific answers, or that you focus a lot of exterior questions on. I know so many of us love to use tarot for these real world 3D problems, asking them to give advice, asking them what's going to happen in the future, for specifics and for predictions. And for me, this is why I choose to call my practice spiritual divination, because I personally just don't resonate with that kind of first level of divination and tarot, where it's very prediction driven, very kind of materialistic and shallow. I don't want to give it a negative connotation either, because that world does have a purpose and many people benefit from it and use it and probably have a different opinion than me. So this is just my personal opinion and why I use, or how I use my cards and interact with my deck from a spiritual level. That's definitely number one on my list. I'm just going to go over 3 quick things here that I think are really foundation level practices to incorporate into your own working when you do tarot. So number 1 definitely is to approach your deck with respect. Tarot has a whole personality in its deck. It has a life of its own, sort of like a mentality, personality, and you have to give it time to be able to express itself and to speak in the way that it wants to, because every deck has a different filter, maybe you could call it, and it looks at life in that way. It looks at your problems, it listens to you, and it wants to provide solutions in a certain category or avenue based on what its role is and what the personalities inside the deck are, you know, the things of spirit that make these decisions. I don't know who calls the shots. I'm just saying, of all the decks I've had, people that I've worked with, you know, over all these years, I've been doing tarot now for like 20 years. Decks, they speak for themselves. And if you don't let them, they will lie to you. They will tell you misgivings in your readings. They will screw your readings up on purpose, or give you falsities, you know, to fool with you, because they really require respect. So that's why I have number 1 down here as to set that common ground of respect, to come at divination and your decks with respect, as beings, energetic beings. And I also have down here, acknowledge that you're about to do a reading, right? Get in a zone which sets the tone for reading, you know? I really have always felt that having that common ground of respect is critical in having a long-lasting, reliable connection, which is what you should be looking for when you're doing tarot, which is also, bring back to the beginning when I was talking about kind of like predictions and quick readings and getting to problems for people. It gets very shallow, and there's not a lot of seeking in there, and it can be like, okay, let me grab my deck and just bring it out, or it can be like, let me shuffle through and just keep it going with all the cards and keep reading and reading, and then get on another topic and keep reading and reading, and the deck will be exhausted. Like, it gets overwhelmed too, it gets tired of answering questions, just like you get tired of a 3-year-old. Why, so approaching your deck with respect and understanding that it is kind of a being of its own, and in that way using it, approaching it and saying, hey, how do you feel today? When you take your deck out and you're preparing, for a reading, hold it in your hands and shuffle it. Get a feeling for what it feels like when you're shuffling it, and it'll tell you right away. For me, in my personal opinion, when I'm shuffling, if it's fast and slippery and quick, like I know they have a lot to say. I know, like, they're ready to go. If they're sticking together, if a lot of clumps are coming, like clumps of cards are getting stuck together, I'll be like, oh, maybe they're apprehensive, or maybe they have something difficult that they're going to tell me, or that they're going to read in this, that I'm going to have to tell somebody in a reading. And so, like, or maybe they're jumpy and they have an exciting thing, there's so many intricacies and beautiful things that you can work through with your deck and learn when you spend time to stop before a reading and feel them and talk to them. I also have down here about general practice points that you definitely always want to let others know where you're coming from when you get into a reading or before you do reading. So I'm very out there and very obvious with people that I do spiritual divination and that it's shadow work or it's soul work. It's difficult, it's hard things. I put it right out there at the very beginning because tarot is kind of supposed to be disruptive. It's supposed to be seeds planted. It's supposed to be esoteric knowledge that we're working in and absorbing and filtering through our personal experiences, our life, replaying it and adding it back into the filter to see these lessons that they're trying to work with us, to hold on to them through the future and watch them as they unfold, and how their generality can weave into such specifics into the future. But it's a long process that, it's not supposed to be specific. Tomorrow I'm going to dye my hair or get this haircut and everybody's going to love it, or I'm going to meet Prince Charming at Market Basket in June. It just does not provide those types of specific answers. And in my opinion, if you're looking for those types of specific answers, you're really on the wrong path of seeking in the first place. No offense meant, but when we're seeking external answers and specifics like that, it's really internal issues that we really need to back up and struggle, internally work through and get through that struggle with ourselves to find out why it is that we're grasping at these straws in the future so desperately. And I do this myself. I am a huge person of this. And this is why I have maintained this practice of self-control and moral control with my cards, and just having boundaries and sovereignty, right? And it comes back to living in a sovereign universe where every being is in itself should have the right to association, should have the right to consent, should have the right to speak what it needs its truth to be heard. Whether it's, vocally spoke or energetically spoken, frequencies, whatever that truth path is for that being, it has the right to pursue it. and I see tarot or even oracle decks. Even though oracle decks are slightly, I see a lot a different energetic balance going on with oracle decks than we have with tarot specifically. But yeah, like it is a being in an essence of its own. In a general form, tarot, you can kind of speak of it like humanity, but then each deck is sort of like each human, you know? Um, you can speak of humanity in a whole, and then you can break it down into an individual and get into specifics. Or you can speak of the deck like humanity, because inside the deck is personalities like individual humans. And then, hey, look at yourself. You can speak of yourself as an individual whole, as a deck, but you're also filled with all of these personalities and filters inside of you, just like individual cards, you know, as above, so below. All of these things are filtering through and working together because it's a master template. And if you can just work with that master template, it's more easy to see that these things are guidance. These things are metaphor. This is esoteric knowledge, you know. It's not for the shallow-minded, because it takes time to ruminate and find your individual message within that knowledge, to find your own path of seeking, which is individual for each of us. So the general becomes individual yet again, you know. Okay, so back to my three things here. Just in closing, for number one, I want to say that another thing that I do in approaching my deck and seeing how, after I, see how they're feeling, and I shuffle them, and I'm sitting with them, and I have my area set, personally what I like to do depends all on what's going on and what kind of reading I'm doing. But generally, I'm doing some meditation. I have some kind of frequency music on, maybe Om chanting, singing bowls, whatever kind of audio that I'm going to feel is going to create a nice vibe for myself at that time, and lighting candles if that's what I'm in the mood for. And then, I set out where I'm going to sit, and I set my cards out, and sometimes I set them out with crystals, or I have a couple special angel oracle cards that I kind of set up sometimes when I want some guidance, or I specifically really want some witnessing to feel extra support. Then I'll pull some of those cards out and kind of lay them like they're watching the reading. And then take my cards out, shuffle them, like I said, get a feeling for them and see how they're feeling and how I'm feeling. And then, especially when I'm reading with others, what I like to do is have a conversation as I'm shuffling about what their specifics are, what the reading they're intending on getting is, maybe, or what their issues are that they're facing, that they're ready to speak on. Or if it's in my head and it's a reading for myself, I'm kind of like thinking over what I'm expecting to be asking about right now, in a general sense. And then I ask my cards for them to confirm that they would like to or have an opinion on this. And usually I either cut the deck, sometimes I do a 3-time knocking, or sometimes the card pops right out. A lot of times, and this is what I really love, is when a card jumps or feels or sticks, or the top card slides in a certain way, something pops out, that to me, and then you read that card and you see which card it is, and it starts up the